Tyria Today, your #1 news site in all of Kryta. While the world is still reeling from these sudden earthquakes all over the continent, we have a special report on how us, as humans, really did make their way to this continent. Here, to make sense of it all, is Bob Pale with the Human Report. Over to you, Bob.
Thank you, Sam. Yes, here we are, human beings, and what a species we are, having spread out all around the continent in these past 100 years and done quite some impressive stuff. But how did we get here? Well, I got here through the back streets to Divinity's Reach, a small walk that takes me only a couple of minutes. But what about the rest of us? Well, this is where we have to go back in time, almost 1,000 years, to the year 786 BE, and to the small island continent known as Canfa. Look! There it is! You see, this year marks the arrival of the 6 human gods onto the planet, and the earliest known records of humanity, who, according to some legends, were brought with them from the mists. So it seems our earliest ancestors were just a bunch of reality-hopping hitchhikers, just like that guy I pass my walk to work each morning. So it's happiness and joy as humans settle in the northern coastline before spreading completely across the continent, living with the gods in perfect harmony, and that is the end of that. But not for long, as in 205 BE, humans begin to spread north across the sea, reaching the continent of Alona, that place right there. And what a place it is, with a harsh desert climate and horrible magical creatures out to get you at every turn. It's anyone's guess as to why you'd want to stay there. But they do! Yes, humanity makes a foothold in the most hostile environment and creates one of the most durable societies in history, lasting all the way to this day. So it's all good for the humans living there now, calling themselves Alonans, as a royal line of primeval kings kicks off the next 650 years of rule. And what a rule it is, with more kings and queens coming and going than you can shake a stick at. So that's the end of that, all nicely wrapped up and nothing more to say. Or so you would think. You see, during this time, humanity also continued to expand over the world, with small groups continuing to move north, eventually coming across the Tyria. No, not the planet, the continent, the one most of us live on today. But here's where it gets interesting. You see, some historians believe that humans first came to the planet here, at Or. No, not that Or, this Or, the small island nation just south of Tyria, where the gods first stepped foot on the planet, in a place called the Artesian Waters. Although I've tasted the waters in there, and they don't taste like paint to me. Little joke there, nice one, Bobsy. So, where did the humans first settle? Well, the common theory today is that all was settled after Camphor, by humans moving north. But we don't really know. And that's all we really do know until 100 BE, when the human nation of Ascalon is founded, causing the newly discovered fluffy furballs, the Char, to be pushed out of their homelands, which doesn't sit too well with them. But who cares about that? Because the gods are here. Yes, having lived amongst humans for the past 100 years in the city of Ara on Or, the gods decide to give humans magic. Hurrah! Before promptly leaving Tyria after war with some bloke named Abaddon. Oh. Leaving the human nations of Ascalon and Or to fend for themselves after becoming independent of each other. But what's this? Why, it's the Alonans from the south, come to establish a colony here in the year 300 AE, after presumably getting sick to death of all that sun. But what to call it? Well, why not call it Kryta? Yep, that works. So it's happiness and joy as Kryta becomes an independent nation in just over 50 years, with the 3 human kingdoms living together in peace and harmony. Wrong! You see, while each of these nations grow in power and prosperity, so too do their guilds, economic organizations set up by the merchants as a means of setting prices of goods. But with more power, their influence expands into every area of life, including warfare, religion, and social concerns, eventually even being responsible for enforcing law in each of the 3 nations, and holding real sway over just about everything. So, with all these guilds about, what's the one thing to do? Well, why not start a war? Yep, that sounds good. But what to fight over? Well, how about those bloodstones at that volcano called Abaddon's mouth? No, not his real mouth. Just spread into the world. Yep, that'll do. And thus begins the one, the only. Ladies and gentlemen, I present the Guild Wars. Dun dun dun. And you know what? It's so popular that why don't we have another? And another! Yes, by the year 1070 AE, there have been 3 guild wars, of all 3 human nations now getting involved. In fact, there probably would have been another one, if it wasn't for the timely arrival of, you guessed it, the Char, who, still unhappy with being pushed out of their lands, launch a full-scale attack on the 3 nations, catching them off guard and nearly bringing them to their knees. And thus, the human-Char conflict begins for the next several thousand years, causing untold death and destruction for humanity until peace is finally brokered in the year 1324 AE with the signing of the Ebonhawk Treaty. So it's all peace and happiness again for humanity as they start a new decade of prosperity, although only if you live in Kryta, as by now Ascalon has been taken over by the Char and Or is sunk to the bottom of the ocean. Oh dear. Leaving Kryta as the last foothold of humanity in Tyria, and the beacon of hope, which is something I can certainly drink to. Wouldn't you say so, Sam? Oh! Thank you for that enlightening report, Bob.